about, I guess, your philosophy of coaching like these young kids when you talk about, the way they, get uncomfortable. I find that some of the kids, they love being challenged, whether they're talented or not as talented, and a little bit, about, whether, it comes easy to others, I guess you'd say. But more, how am I kind of getting at? But like more, um, some will take those challenges like right away is kind of my point. And what we as coaches can do and the culture can do. I find that some kids, it's right in the culture that they just kind of say the ones that can have a ton of room can develop, they just take that right away and will do anything to try to achieve that and better themselves. It's like their mentality. But then some, it takes a little longer to sink into like, okay, if I listen to this or try this, what kind of goes through the brain, I guess, psychologically.
Yeah. That's a good point that you make. Like I've been very fortunate to work with, youth players to guys that play in the NHL, and I think if you want to do well in the coaching world, I think you have to have a different approach for every kid in every session that you have, right? Like you can't have the same approach that if I have a Mike group, I can't have that same approach that I would as if I was coaching a high school team or a junior team, right? Like on the skill development. And now I'm not saying you can't run the same drills. Like you have to be able to make those adjustments, right? Like you have to know when to challenge your players and you have to know when to build on that confidence, right? Like because just to give you an example, if I'm working with a Mike's like ages 6 to 8, that practice is going to be a little different. Like you want to focus on the fun. You want to teach them the fundamentals. You want to teach them the foundation and the skating, and making it fun. Versus if you're with a junior team, you want it to be competitive, right? Like put them in an environment where you're doing one-on-one battles and it's almost like a competition. That way everybody wins. I mean, they're pushing each other, and at the end of the day, they're getting better. So I'm a believer that your approach has to be different, not only with the teams that you work with, but individuals, right? Like no individuals are going to be the same in terms of development. And like you said, that some kids, they love to be challenged. And then you're going to have some kids that you need to nurture through the process, right? Like just focus on their strengths, but at the same time, kind of hide the weaknesses, but work on those weaknesses at the same time. Does that make sense to you?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Sometimes I find, whether they're habits or whether it's a little bit of that stubbornness,
Yeah,
um,
for
you
sure.
know, sometimes they're being taught in a different way, not that it's wrong at all, or something that maybe they think is correct or right. They just don't see themselves right. And more so with that, I guess I would be talking about the 14-year-olds and younger, probably even 12 and younger, kind of like that, where you're trying to really break those habits and you're trying to explain to them what they're doing and what they look like to correct them a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Anything from your playing experience back in the day that you could share and that things that you want to change?
The game was a lot different back then when I'm 39 years old. I stopped playing when I was 22. So the game's changed a lot, right? Like back when I played, it was a little tougher, like more of a tougher mentality in terms of like, but now it's more skilled. Like you watch an NHL game, like I mean, you're like defensively, like you're seeing guys be involved in the play. Offensively, like it's. I've always told kids if the game of hockey is getting faster, right, and guys are getting stronger, and if you want to play at the highest level, like you need to be able to skate, right? Like you break the game of hockey down as one-on-one battles, anyways, right? Like so that's why skill development has become so important at all levels because if you can't compete on a one-on-one level, you're going to struggle. I mean, whether that's skating, whether that's stick handling, whether that's passing, whether that's shooting, like you have to be able to work on all aspects of the game. And that's I think that's the changes that you're seeing the most is, kids are very, very, very skilled, like whether on the back end or whether on the front end, they have the offensive skills, they have the defensive skills. They're playing all three zones.
And even not sure what your career was like, but even the question for how things were ran or worked. Do you have any change there? Some of the guests are able to share, um, whether I guess maybe a little bit of the political side or just the operation side of how things are working, what you've tried and implement in above and beyond hockey to change and to educate the families, the players.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, like you had good experiences, and you had some experiences that like really opened your eyes, right? Like I said, I shared a post the other day. I said, become the coach that you wanted to play for. And to me, that what I mean by that is, like, show that you care to these kids, right? Like if you show that you're passionate and you care about the kids that are playing for you or skating for you at your camps and clinics, they're gonna go through the wall for you. And you know that, right? Like from the business side of it, I want to create a culture, right? Like I want to create a culture where the kids know that they can come to me at any time. When we're more on the ice, like I understand that my job is to develop these kids. But when that practice is over and we're off the ice, like I'm the first guy to walk up to a kid and ask him how his school was, or how his family's doing and stuff like that. And that goes a long way. I don't do it because I want to put on show. Like I do it because I genuinely care about these kids. And I want to teach the kids, like I said before, I want to teach the kids about accountability, respecting the game, work ethic, um, motivation. Like motivation is a thing that kids really struggle with these days, especially the last 2 years with what's been going on, right? Like school's been taken away from them. The rinks have been closed, and I know you're dealing with that too in Canada. But so we kind of had to restructure our approach a little bit, right? Like I was doing training videos off ice, to give these kids hockey at home, and just creating opportunities to keep these kids motivated and to keep these kids engaged, right? Because I don't care what anyone says. If you're a hockey player, like if you love the game of hockey, like you look forward to that, right? Like some of these kids were sitting on a computer for 8 hours a day during school, and now all of a sudden hockey, they can't go to the rink. Like it's almost like, what do you want the kids to do, right? So that's where we really worked overtime and providing training, off ice training and shooting, stick handling, you know, workouts and stuff. Like we were so active on social media, and that went a long way with our kids, right? Like I think for me, I think the thing that with above and beyond is and that separates us is we want to create a culture. And I understand that our culture is not for everybody, and and it is what it is, right? Like we hold our players accountable, but at the same time, I'm the first guy to reach out to my kids and make sure that they're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, all great points there for sure. This whole, different, the pandemic in different countries, different states, different provinces as well. It's just, it's a lot of, adversity and different challenges for sure, whether it's on the programs, on the coach, or definitely on the players, just how they are having to deal with this, and some of them being so young that really may not fully understand what's going on, or also what they're feeling, as they get older, they might realize like, wow, we actually just got through that with not being on the ice or not exercising, in group settings, I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, it's been crazy, and just allowing these kids that love sports to be active, and especially obviously in our case, hockey players, for them to be able to exercise physically, but even mostly mentally, because a lot of them, I feel it's an outlet for them, right? And talking just on a podcast the other day as well myself, and just talking with the other coaches, but just some of them, they look forward to the hockey only during their day. It's not,
That's it.
sometimes
That's it.
sometimes it's not school, sometimes it's not, whatever they got to do during their day life. It's just like, I got hockey later on today, so that's what I'm kind of excited for. We hope to change that part, but that's how it is reality with some of these kids.
No, and